folks, and welcome back to the channel. We are doing something different today. As a break from the circuit experiences and license tests, I had someone ask what would be my car to choose for the World Touring Car 700, and you can see it there. It's the Corvette C7 GR3. I'm just going to take you through the mods to get it to 700 pp. Racing hards, and then we've got 100% ECU. We've bought the ballast and we've added 7 kilo, and then we've power restricted down to 85, the 85% mark, and that brings us just in under the 700 at 699.82. Now the reason I did it that way is I want the full ECU power. The car doesn't run well. It doesn't use 6th gear very well if you don't give it the maximum horsepower. So we've got the maximum horsepower, but we've restricted that power, so it just caps the top speed slightly. But that's better because we'll conserve fuel at that point. And additionally, settings are traction control on, default OBS, and everything else off, just like I would normally do in the license tests. Why do the license test one way or another? So this is about getting gold, but it's also about that 835,000 credits, which is the key to this race if you're doing the grind. So the CR7 is a particularly steady car. I've got the racing hards on, as you can see. Power, I'm going to go with the full beans for the first 3 laps. Now we've got to dice with the rain here. We've got to make progress early. We've got to make hay while the sun shines, as they say. So we're just going to try and cut through the traffic. I do apologise, I make a couple of mistakes down here. I actually get attacked by my cat at one point. You'll know when that is. But also, the car actually starts to feel strange in a little while. And I get a couple of slides through some corners. I don't know whether that's the game. I don't know whether that's my wheel. I don't know whether that is just sometimes. I've timed that pretty well through there, look at that. I don't know whether it's actually just the game just recreating, you know, like oil on the track or just varying grip, but we'll see that in a short while. So here we are coming down the Mulsanne straight, really giving it the beans. I'm going to go for a gap here, see if there is one. Oh, yeah, there is. And then we're just going to run through the first chicane. We've actually overtook 11 cars at this point. So the plan is give it the beans, first 3 laps, then pit. And then we've got to make an assessment of where we are with rain. As you can see, it's a beautiful sunny day. This race tends to rain just as you're getting into lap 3, or just as you're reaching the end of lap 3. I've tried it a number of times, trying to skip lap 4 on tyres, but I don't know, at the end of the day we're going to try one set of tyres all the way through the race. I don't really want to change to wets, but every time I've caught the rain, the car just doesn't cope very well at all with the rain. It's because it's on hards. So you see the laps remaining there, they are 2 laps, but we've got 80% fuel. We're going to try and do 3 laps on this set of fuel. So with that we're targeting 66% at the end of this lap. And we're not going to talk about the racing lines in this. If you're doing this race, you've got some way through the menus in the cafe, and you're actually grinding it out. So you're going to have an understanding of how this course happens. Whether you've done the license tests or whatever, that's up to you. But this is about getting the right car for the process, and there are many cars that people have suggested to use for this, but this is my take on a stable, suitable car for this race. I do know people have suggested that the Suzuki Swift is actually king round here, and you'll see one in a moment. We'll come up to one. So I do make an overtaking manoeuvre here on this Aston. It's a bit dodgy. We kind of crowd him around the outside and force him to the apex. There we go, we beat him in there, which is kind of cool. And then I do get a couple of penalties in this race. So where are we on fuel? 70%. Ooh, we got 4% to get to the end of this lap. I know we're not going to do that. So it's also saying we're only going to do 1.8 laps now. So we're going to have to wind that back in a little bit. So at a point we're going to start short shifting, and we'll start just conserving fuel by lifting off before corners. Going to bully away past this guy in the C8. He moved out of the way quite quickly. Some people complain about bullshit AI. Don't really find that here. If you drive at them and you drive with them the way they drive with you, oh, I wonder if that's a penalty. That could be, you know, could be half a second. We'll see. Coming up to the end of the first lap, 64% of fuel, so we're 2% off. Oh, the back end's gone Larry. Ah, oh, cut across the apex of that second bit. And that's what I mean about the car behaving a bit differently sometimes. I don't know if I went into that corner too fast. There's a 1.5 second penalty for missing an apex. That's bad for cutting. But hey ho, 61% as we go past the start finish line. We've got a bit of recovering to do, so let's see what we can do here. We've got to save a bit of fuel and we've got to save 1.5 seconds and make that back up somehow. Oh, I've just gone off the track there again. Again, the car's just feeling a little bit different. I don't know if there's a bit of rain about. The skies look clear though. We'll see. I've just clipped that curb there on the inside and I've run wide here. Cars, I don't know whether it's me not concentrating. Not 100% sure with that. We'll see where we go. I think I know what it is actually, if I remember correctly. This is where Cat started to interfere with me. And I run out of cool with the Cat in a little while. And he gets a stern word, which I know you're not going to hear, but it explains my slightly dodgy driving. Here we go, the time is counting down. It's less than 25 minutes now. We're up to third place and we're making good progress. We really want to be trying to get into the lead just as we're pitting. I think that's where we want to be. Oh, and look, it's the Suzuki Swift in second place. So we're not revving it out all the way. We're getting to the end of fourth gear and changing before we flash. We changed before we got to the flashes in fifth as well. Know we've got another chicane coming up. So we let off a bit early and we coast into the corner. Not being massively aggressive because we know we need to get to the end of this lap at 33%. And we've probably got 1.5 circuits, 1.5 laps to go at this point as we get to this corner at the end. But we've got a Viper in front of us now. Viper's Mr. F. Portilla. Braking on that apex there down the second gear. We can really attack this apex, no major drama. Get behind this fella and just rev it out a bit. Probably could save a bit of fuel there, use his slipstream. Not give it too much of the beans. He's holding his line nicely, that's good. Not going to barge us out of the way. Just here where my attention is distracted marginally. Now it's the next lap. But as it is, we've got a penalty to serve, so 1.5 seconds to scrub off, which is always going to be painful, but we'll see if we can stay ahead of this guy in first place. We'll see if we can just block him off a bit as he comes to accelerate past us. Just a bit unfriendly with the AI, but I'm sure they've done far worse to you. And how are we doing for progress? Well, 37% we really need to be at the end of this lap with 33, so here comes that Viper now in the mirror. I'm just going to shut his party down a little bit, keep him behind us, he's going to back up here. And I've just kind of run wide there, gone over that white line again. The car didn't seem to brake as I anticipated. So we gained ourselves another half-second penalty, which just infuriates me really. And at 34%, it's time to change the fuel map. I think we're going to just back that down a little bit, or at least I think we need to. Kind of hoping we do. 32%, we've now got less fuel than we need. No, it's only 1%. We can recover that quite easily with some short shifting and letting off before corners. So coming across the line, we actually better off this lap. We've only got half a second penalty and not 1.5 seconds. That was the fastest lap of 4:15, which isn't so bad. We've got a 6-lap race. Might be 7 laps actually. We might get 7 laps in. It'll be 7 laps. definitely. Just quick maths. Oh, look at the radar, folks. Look, we can feel the rain, we can see the rain. There it is, it's coming in. So now, at the first sign of the rain, we just have to work out which way it's going. On that weather radar there, we are that middle of that cross, so it doesn't really give you a general indicator. I suppose if you look at the top right hand corner, you can see the wind indicator, so the actual rain is going to be travelling from the southeast corner to the northwest corner. So the bulk of it's bypassing us really. We've only got a couple of spots to get past us. So yeah, we might be lucky at this point. No real need to change tyres, but we are going to pit at the end of this lap. So we've got a 7-second lead over the car behind us. We're just easing off early, changing down through the gears, going through it in a comfortable spot. The track wetness indicator to the left hand side of the tyre indicator shows there's no rain on the circuit, so we're good at this point. And I've just zoomed the weather radar in. You can now see us going between two weather clouds, which we're quite lucky if that's the case. And I also think the wind is changing slightly. If you look to the top right hand corner again as we enter this corner, you'll see the wind is starting to blow more to the vertical, so we're actually looking like we're going into clear air. We're not going to get much more rain than this. There's no indicator on the wet, so we're good. We've dipped below 20 minutes to go. We've still got half a second penalty. I need to check on the fuel in a moment, just make sure we're good. We are just sort of coming down to roughly half lap, and going to brake on the spot, down a second. Don't want to overrun this and run into the gravel, that would be pretty poor. 8-second lead over the car behind us. So the weather radar's showing a bit more interest now. We've got a few more dots coming in from the right hand side. They're not dots, they're big clouds, look. There's no persistent rain, which is great. Got a bit of a wet track by the looks of it. We're alright. I just noticed that the tyre indicator on the left has just started to show red tops, so the tyre's just cutting through, and still maintaining quite good grip. It feels okay. On the premise that we've had a couple of incidents as we've gone through some corners, but generally the tyres feel okay. That's the half-second gone. The weather map again, as it's just flashed off the green, we're seeing cool 6% fuel to go. We kept it full power on the one, we didn't reduce it. Going back to the wet, oh, there is some big clouds coming into the right hand side. That looks interesting, but at this point now, fourth gear for this one, try and stop us sliding off. I nearly did it again. We have to make a choice on tyres. What we're going to do, are we going to change to wet, so we're going to change to intermediate? Are we going to keep a risk and we're going to stay on the hards that we've got? Almost a 10-second lead. We're down to 1% fuel, it looks like, as we're about to go in. 3% we've got. So I've changed it back down to 4th just to make sure we get into the pits. I think we're good there. Down to 2. Just going to brake for this left, right. The weather indicator says I think we're going to be alright at that point. If the wind is changing to a more northerly view and we've got no more rain coming in, I'm going to stay with the same tyre. So we're going to stay on hards. You can see we've got in there with 3. It said 2, I'm sure it did as we came in, but hey ho. Mr. Portillo's stopped as well, so second place has stopped with us. He's going for, I don't know what tyres he's going for. Mendoza's stopped. The likely event is it's going to be a Lambo that's going to stay out, and we're going to have to follow Lambo around for 4th lap. It's not going to be bad, it's going to be our out lap. I think it's Mr. Hayward, there he is, he's just gone through. So Mr. Yamanaka, he's in the GT86. I believe he's just going for softs. Filling up, going to take a full load of fuel. And we're going to try and do 4 laps on this one, so we're going to set the power to 6. We're in 2nd place, and he's the guy that's just gone past Mr. Hayward. There he goes. He's only 3 seconds ahead, but he's got to stop yet, so there's no major dramas. that lap 3 was roughly 42 seconds slower than lap 2, and that was all the rain started again. Who was expecting rain? I certainly wasn't. We've got a little bit coming through, nothing on the indicator. Got to be a bit nervous now because I don't know what's coming in. Can't see much more detail than that. That's the real high view, but if we're skirting on the edge of the cloud and we're only getting a bit of rain, we're doing alright. Here we go, Mulsanne again. So we've got a 6.5 second lead over the car behind. Mr. Portilla, he was in second place anyway. He seems to have come through that pit stop maybe 3 seconds better off than us. So I don't think he took full fuel. Just keep coasting this. We've got 4 laps to do on this fuel setup. The tyres looking good. We've only just broke the surface really on those tyres. They're holding out well. Big advantage doing the old traction control one. It stops you slipping the wheels. It keeps you a bit more longer lasting tyre. We could also put a bit of brake balance to the front if we want the front to just kind of even out the wear a little bit, but we haven't done that this time around. My question though is, where's the rain? Holy Pachole, look at that, that wind indicator's moved a little bit again, so it's gone slightly more to the east-west corner, but we're only getting spits and spots. There's a tiny smidgen now on the wet indicator and that's gone away, so there's only a little bit of standing water. And for those of you that don't know what the indicator is, on the left hand side, the first level says full slicks are just a thing. The second notch says you need to be considering intermediates, and if you consider if it's going all the way to the top, the third bar, the long line on the top, you should be using full wets, and vice versa. As you get back down to the first indicator, or the second one from the bottom, you should be considering moving to intermediates. But mostly with the wets, you'd let it go down to the first indicator, then change back to slicks, or at least consider. The ideal is that it stays dry. But here we go, weather indicator again. We're coming down to my favourite corner. I absolutely hate this one, never know what to do, but lift it off, brake. This car's fairly stable, it's fairly good. And we're going to push on through here. We're going to try and take the weather indicator off in a few minutes and just see what our fuel consumption is. Not forget we targeted 25% at the end of this lap. I'm hoping on 6 we're doing good, but we are actually losing ground to the car behind us. He's actually gained back 2 seconds since the end of the Mulsanne straight, and Mr. Hayward has pulled away by a good 4 seconds. So if we're under consuming on fuel, we could do with a couple of notches and get us back up to 4. That wind has really started to blow that rain away now, so we're not actually seeing any rain that's going to affect us on the radar, and it looks like the sun's breaking through again. So it looks like any rain we got at the start of the race, in the middle of the race, is going to blow through quite quickly, one hopes. Here we go, coming to complete lap 4. Don't anticipate us setting an extremely fast lap here. It was the out lap anyway. Brake down for this chicane, third gear, run a couple of tyres over each curb, down a second, well we're doing it first, okay. And Mr. Hayward went to the pit, so he had 9% fuel left. He did really well to get that, but he was only 7 seconds ahead of us, so he really was slow at that point because we've stopped, and each stop's worth about 40 seconds, so not so bad. There's the fuel setting, we're at 80%, we've gone through the lines, we've got 6% spare at that point. 2.7 laps remaining. I'd be happier if that was more 2.9, but hey ho, we're going to keep it in 5 for a little while. Try and let some of this wet, sticky, tacky tarmac get away from us, and there you go, feel the sun now, blazing. But I'm hoping when you watch this there'll be an overlay that's showing for you so you can see the Corvette in all its glory. It's a stunning car, it's really nice. I enjoy driving this car, it's nice and steady to drive. It's also good to look at in the replays. Standard trim, well in this trim actually it's got 486 brake horsepower and it weighs 1,307 kilo. And for those of you that don't know, it's a front engine rear wheel drive car. As the target was 700 pp, we just managed to adjust that underneath. There were a couple of other ways you could have done that. See me there, I've switched that up to 4 on the lean indicator. We've just gone past the 75%, which is our target at the end of the first lap. So the consumption really is going quite well. Where are we? We're 7 seconds ahead of the guy behind. So we just pulled it out a wee bit. I was talking about the Corvette, wasn't I? So yeah, this is a standard car. You get it early in the cafe menu. So it's one you should have in your bank. In your car garage. It's not something that should elude you. It's pretty universal. And as I said earlier in the race, I've seen a number of people suggest different cars, like detuning the Red Bull, the Red Bull X 2019. Not a car I enjoy driving, that one. Somebody said the four-wheel drive Isle of Man Subaru Impreza. It's a lovely, oh, I've overshot that one a little bit. It's a lovely car actually, it's a great one to drive. It's also got DRS, so you can get a bit more top speed. But I find the fuel consumption in that car is pretty savage. I was only trying to overtake cars 2 laps out of the tank, so that would mean 3 stops. You know, if you eke out a 3rd lap, maybe it would work, but I was also running softer tyres on that because the PP was low and I was going to have to build the PP up. So one of my principal mantras in tuning cars is to tune a car down rather than to tune a car up. If you tune a car down, you'll normally maintain its handling. If you're going to tune a car up, you're going to affect its handling mainly in the negative. So if you can avoid tuning a car up, all the better. That's why this car's good to do, because you reduce its power not using the ECU. You restrict its power with the power restrictor, not through a brake horsepower restriction. You do it, you let the car have its full beams. But then we had a little bit of weight just to try and get that as close to 700 as we could, to try and keep as much power as possible. And I think this car does it really, really well. Now some people, when you're in the grinding way of things, you're talking about trying to maximise the amount of effort. For me, I think this is a 32-minute race and it's 835k. 550k I think for the race, and the rest is your clean race bonus. I've had 2 penalties. My expectation is that I'll still get the clean race bonus because I haven't had a bad race, but I think that's bugged really, because I've bumped a few cars. If you saw, I did a bit of a cheeky manoeuvre in lap 1 and went around the outside of 2 cars. But here we go, 2 laps to go. So it's a 4:17.941. Effectively there, we were just 2.5 seconds off our best lap, but we're still conserving fuel, so that's not so bad, is it, for me? Somebody's just pitted there, Mr. Arblazen. Mr. Portilla is now 16 seconds behind, so we're now actually making good ground and we're pulling away from the cars behind. At this point, folks, you can probably start to relax unless you've just turned the weather radar on, and you can see how the wind is now blowing the other way. So instead of blowing northwest, it's now blowing southwest. And I'm talking about direction on the screen, not physically, because we know that's not southwest legally, royally, actually. But there we go. We're starting to chill now because we know we've got this in the bag. 6 minutes 50 at this point. There's 2 laps to go. We've got 1 to complete, and then the timer will tick down. I don't think there's a way you can do this race in 6 laps. Don't think there's a way you can get that far ahead with the current cars we've got without the Tomahawk anymore. to get there. So you just push across the line, 6 minutes, 30 minutes done, boom, race won, and then you're away. I don't think that's kind of possible at this point. Generally, I think you're running 7 laps in this race because that's the way it's going to be. Unless you can be that quick, so you're up ahead and just nudge the car over the line. I don't know. That hopefully doesn't feel real to me. The idea of this process, the way they're setting the PPs, is that you try and match your car yourself to the PP limit. And I know I've said tune it down, but that's within the game. I could take a lower PP car and tune it up, but then you've got the handling issues, and I'm not brilliant at determining handling. Though I can, it's just a quick process. And the reason you watch these videos to get these tips and hints is because you want to do it quickly. You don't want to be experimenting, etc. Well, you probably do, and I could probably take that back. Maybe that's what some people do, but generally, if you're watching my videos, this is what you're enjoying. We're now up to 22-second lead. No more penalties, thank God. Power's on full, 33% to go. We've actually saved and saved. I'm still going to try and change it, as in short shift. I'm not going to try and overly thrash the car now. We're comfortable lead at 20 seconds. Don't want to crash it, don't want to take it off the track. We'll get round to the 6th lap. It was again at this point that the cat started to interfere again, and she's a lovely little chicken, but she needs to get her tea and eat and go to bed, and she reminds me that when it gets late, and it is late. There we go, 4 minutes to go almost, 4 minutes 15. We've got 1 lap of fuel left, 28%, so it's saying 1 lap left of fuel. I'm not going to stop and dash the fuel because we'll lose by 20 seconds. But as it is, skip past the pit lane entrance, we're all right there. Down to 1st gear, 2nd gear, I never know what I do going through these, it all depends how I feel. And then we got 0.9%, and there we go, that's where the cat affected and played, and stuck a blooming claws in the man apples. There we go. Going around this corner. Never hit it. There we go. Lovely bridge there. A feature of many games. Tyres are looking good. We've probably used about 25% of the rears, but they're still working well within their operational efficiency settings. Oh look, 3rd, 4th and 5th, 6th have all pitted. Mr. Hayward hasn't though. Hayward's done an absolute flyer there. He was nowhere on the table after his last pit stop. He was not at all, so he's now coming back into the picture. Mr. Yamanaka in softs. He's just still back on the track, he's back running. Mr. Yamanaka there on softs, he's got 19% fuel left. I reckon he didn't need to stop. He could have kept running round. Easy money. I don't know whether he could have. He could have been 40 seconds faster there, surely. Anyway, doesn't matter. We are. Oh, did you see that? Look, 4:14 our last lap. We got the fastest lap of the race there. Even though we had it already, we still put in a faster lap. That's great. Are we going to coast into this corner? We're still in 6th gear, but we're on 6th lean. So we are coasting, look at that. We're throttled off, and we're just braking down to here using the gears. We're in there in 2nd. When you're nearly 30 seconds, oh sorry, when you're nearly 40 seconds ahead, you really can afford to just chill. Time's ticking down, 1 minute 34 to go. So as we get to the end of the next straight, that'll be ticking down to a finish, and then we'll be just pushing across the line. So at this point, we're 100% sure we've got the right one. But here's the thing, not every race has the same rain pattern, and that's the great thing about this little event. I know I've done another video already on how I won Le Sard, etc. But that was just a license test or circuit experience, which was tricky. But this has been tricky because this is my third car doing this, and I was plagued by the rain just hitting me and making the car undrivable, and I couldn't really get the right choice. So whilst I've said this car is absolutely spot on for this race, it's spot on for these conditions. So what I do know is, and this is my advice, don't necessarily use the Corvette. Find a car you're happy driving that can overtake and can get you somewhere near the front at the end of the first lap, and that can do 4 laps of fuel. If you found that car, it's the right car to use, and it's the right car for this race if it's under 700 PB. And also because the weather's an absolute shooter, and it takes you 15 to 20 minutes of the race to find out whether it's going to rain. You don't really get much of a weather report at the start, but with that, we're into now the last 25%, well, it's the last 10% of the track really, coming through the corners. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. You know this is me going to win this race, and we'll take the trophy, take the first place. Here we are, 7% fuel. But in terms of you sticking by and watching the videos, if you're a subscriber already, thank you very much. And if you're not a subscriber, you just need to ask yourself why. Because I'm going to start to do more of these videos, I'm going to start to give you more info. And if you like to come back for some more, I'll deliver it straight to your inbox if you've subscribed with me. And there it is, folks, first place, across the line, lovely looking car. And that's it. That is ultimately how to win this race with a car of your choice. As I say, it doesn't have to be the Corvette. But it is a nice car to use, and it's a good one. You should all have one in your car garage, as said. And there we are, Mr. Haywood, who did the 4-lap then 3-lap stint, came through and got second place. The Viper, Mr. Portilla, in third by what is he, 23 seconds back. And there's that in 6th place. Look at that little Suzuki Swift. I do know people say the Swift is an absolute giant killer. And there it is, folks, first place. And all I can say is thank you very much for watching and sticking with us. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.